Hello friends, and welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today Jerry and I are going to do a garden Q&A here, because this is going to be a signature experience, behind the scenes, sneak peek, kind of recap, question and answer.
Yes, the questions that we answered for the attendees
At the signature experience.
at the signature experience, and then it's a way for us to then give you guys a part of it.
Right, because these were the questions that they asked us during our Q&A. They submitted questions ahead of time, so we thought, you know what, if they have these questions, odds are these might resonate with you as well. So we thought we would do that. And obviously we're coming from a different location. We are up here at the terrace garden. We're not on the porch today. We are shooting this before the sun comes up. But Jerry, is it a little warm out here?
Feels like the sun's already on me.
Yes, the heat and the humidity is thick and ripe. Ooh. And so
maybe it's, I don't know if it's radiating out of here or what, but it is thick right here.
It's just thick. So, and there's
today's the last day of the big heat advisory situation, heat wave that we have. It was like a heat index yesterday of 108. I think we'll get close to that again today, but I don't think it's still going to be in the 90s, but we should start to get back to normal. This time of year for us, normal is like 89,
low 90s,
low 90s.
Right.
Still could be humid, but
not upper 90s.
Nah.
Oh my word, craziness.
Not 100.
Okay, so that just goes right into our very first question.
Oh, really?
What is the most challenging thing gardening in your location?
Right. So it would be this type of heat that gets here. There are other places in the country where it gets to 100, but at night it cools down to 50, 60 degrees.
Yeah.
The other night, we would go and look at the thermostat, and it was 9 o'clock at night, and it was still 90 degrees outside.
Right, with the high heat and humidity.
Yeah.
Not only is it hot, it is not a dry heat. It is a very damp, which is good because it holds the moisture in the ground, but like it doesn't dry out quite as fast, but man, it is thick and hot. And so, like Jerry said, when we get in the thick of summer, like right now and beyond, we don't cool down at night. We were watching the weather, and they were like, at 1 a.m. it's going to still be 84 degrees, and like the humidity and the dew point was just out the roof. So the plants don't get a break. We can go inside to the air conditioning and cool off, but these poor plants don't get a rest from the heat and humidity. And so that's what's so challenging, is that heat and humidity for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and thankfully for like this year, as far as that goes, we've had a lot of rain, and the ground has water, and we've been really good at mulching. Which that's I know there's a question in about mulch. So we'll be careful here, but that holds your water in, so that the plants are doing really well.
Yes, the established plants are doing really well.
Yes, yeah. And then I just came from the garden center, and there were a few, even though we have the overhead there were a few hydrangeas in there that maybe just weren't getting the same amount of water as a few, and you could tell they struggled yesterday.
Yes.
So the other thing here in this area that we struggle with is that hard clay soil. We have clay. There's different clay all throughout this property. Some of it's easier to dig through, and some of it's really hard, like what is up behind me at the chicken coop, which that is really hard, compact. So getting through that, but it gets a bad rap. That's what we said to the experienced folks, is that clay holds lots of water and fertilizer and minerals and all the goodies for plants that really like. It's just us being able to work it and get our amendments in there to loosen up. That makes it a little bit difficult here.
Yeah,
those two things.
Especially if you're not used to it. We have folks that move in from other parts of the country, and they just freak out over
They're
the
used
clay.
to just taking their shovel or auger or whatever and just
not even an auger. They don't even know what an auger is. They're just used to the shovel and that nice, loamy, very tilthy soil, and they come here, and that's why we love our auger so much.
Yeah, we do.
Oh my goodness. All right, so the next question. I promise we don't plan this exactly right, y'all. What is your favorite tool for the everyday garden stuff? So without a doubt, I mean, talking about the augers, I could not garden the way that I do, 5 days a week and plant the number of plants that I do without with the power planter auger, right? And of course, using those Jenny's Editions, because they have those heavy duty tips, like what Jerry was saying, when we have the red clay. And this is historically like probably the worst on the property is from Hydrangea Hill all the way up to the chicken coop. So that's why we keep like pointing that way, because it's so compact, red clay, zero organic matter on top, because it is on a hill and everything washes. So the power planter has been a huge asset for me, because literally could not plant the number of plants that I do on a regular basis without it. So the power planter, my Hori Hori, I adore my Hori Hori. It is that great hand tool that is like the all-purpose tool. I mean, I use it as like a razor blade to cut open bags. I use it as a pick to separate root-bound roots on the pots. I dig holes with it. I do all sorts of stuff with that Hori Hori, so that's huge. And then I would say probably my garden belt. That would be those three things are my biggest tools that I use on a regular basis. Yep. Next question. How do you deal with pests in the nursery? Any bug issues that you have to spray for?
So yeah, that we talked about in the greenhouse per se, I think is where that question is coming from. You have targeted pests every once in a while, because we'll have aphids. Like this year we had the thrips that were really bad early on. We have to sometimes bring out a insecticide to take care of that, because if you have but thankfully in both of those cases this year, I know with the thrips per se, it's usually in a concentrated area, and that's where they come in. And as long as you catch them early on and take care of the problem fast, then we don't have this widespread issue.
So you're saying a little isolated spot.
It's very isolated, but it was a bunch of them in an isolated spot. But, we just went ahead and wipe them out. It's just, our greenhouse is open, so it's hard for us to have the biologicals in there, because they could just leave, so it's a difficult process, but we don't use a ton of pesticides in there, so we've been very fortunate. It's just that even if we do have them pests, we're feeding our plants, which then helps them kind of defend themselves.
Right, because if it's a strong, healthy plant, it can defend itself against the attack of pests.
Except for there's really only one way right now. We got some beetles out, the Japanese beetles out. It's going to chew away the leaves. There's a vermilion here in front of me. I noticed they got a hold of some on the other side over here. They're not as bad right now, but we'll see. It could start to get worse, but there's, you have to spray for that thing.
Right, and we've been taking measures here on the property, using the milky spores and those things, trying to just prevent the Japanese beetles from even being able to hatch and to come up.
Yes.
And so the quote good thing about a Japanese beetle is it just makes the plant look ugly. It's not going to kill the plant.
Correct.
If that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But yes. Next question. How do we dream of all their projects, and do they always agree on them? So I always say that Jerry's kind of like the big dreamer. He's the one that has the big grand plans, and then kind of once he mentions something, like perfect example would be like this project, like you had the kind of that vision of this is what I want, this is what I'm thinking, and then once that kind of like lands in my brain, then like we both just like take off with it and really expand upon it. But I would always say that Jerry's like the big dreamer, the big planner. He has taught me to dream and think bigger than what I typically do. And so, but once that kind of that concept comes, is spoken, then we just put our heads together and we just bounce ideas off of each other and talk it through. And if you're a faithful watcher of Creekside, then you probably know we say, oh, we're going to do this. And then, I don't know, 50% of the time it kind of it changes, but like what we originally said we're going to do, because we just keep thinking it through, and then when you're in the middle of the project, it kind of changes or whatever. And
right, yeah, because just like with this project changed over time as we were building it out, and so then we ended up with a staircase over here that actually turned out to be the most favorite part of this entire garden. Everybody sees it on video and really likes it. It was going to be like a hardscape type steps, and I X'd that during building the wall.
Because we were going to do it like right here on this
We were going to do
corner.
one here, and then it was going to go over there, and we flipped that back and forth, and then we came up with this idea of these natural steps coming out of this space, and that turned out to be fabulous. But the big dream was, let's get this set off right up here. Let's do some retaining back and forth, or solve some problems, and make it beautiful with the Vigo boxes that are here that really highlight off. I knew I wanted, the light colored stone, because since we have that darker colored box. So from there, we just go with it.
That's right. How are you able to do so much in a day? How do you find enough hours in the day to do all that you do?
Yeah, you just get up in the morning and start doing one task to the next.
It is, and that we always start our day. I do think it is. I wouldn't say we have a very I don't know how to say this other than we don't have a very restful life. Like, we're not just like hanging out and like for hours upon a day and just like sitting and dreaming underneath a shade tree. But we are very, very intentional with our time together. And so for us, that is that restful time. So like every morning we get up, and it depends on the weather. If it's dead winter, we have our 2 cups of coffee in our bedroom while we're looking out the window. Or if it's times like now, and we have our 2 cups of coffee on the front porch or the back porch, depending on what the situation is. And then we do it again kind of in the afternoon. We try to regroup together. And so, but we have those periods of like built-in alone time, rest time for us. But there is always a huge to-do list that is always happening, and we just go and just knock it out. I mean, we just do.
Right, yeah, because like even right now, we just got through this experience, and so there was a lot of stuff to do just to get ready for that, and along with, things that production that just have to be done no matter what.
Right.
So, but now there's a few little things that we have to do, but there's not a major, overwhelming, pressing situation right now.
No, and I kind of joked about like this week, because this week has been those extreme temperatures, and so I joke and I was like, man, this is like perfect timing. One, because it happened this week and not last week, getting ready for the signature experience. Yes. But the perfect time as far as after the signature experience is because literally what we've been doing this week is come out, take care of business outside, water, film a video, and then we're back in the house by 11 o'clock. So for the rest of the day, we are inside, which never happens. So
yeah, it's just kind of worked out for this week. It didn't normally, has not been this way in the past, but it just kind of happened to work out, that way this year.
Yeah, but we just move. We just move with purpose, and there's always the list to be done. And so,
we have help, and like right now, the help is, picking more weeds in the signature garden to keep the weeds out. They're going through and putting in the slow release in the pots, because right now we are watering the perennials in the pots, and all the shrubs in the pots, and those pots leach everything. The water leaches out, so it's losing its fertilizer. So it's time so that is being taken place while we're doing the video. And
right, and the garden center is open because we have a great staff. So that I'm glad you said that. That's a key point. We don't do all of this by ourselves. No. We have an amazing staff, that our Creekside family that really has bought in, and this is by far the most dedicated, hardest working staff we have ever had. Whether it's Cece and Brittany at the garden center, or it's Amber and Debbie and Catherine up at shipping, and Heriberto and Jesus who are helping and just doing anything. I mean, everybody buys in, and at any point somebody will kind of stop what they're doing to help with the fire that's in another area and take care of that. So we, I'm not out picking your orders. I know some of people may think that I'm the one that's actually out picking all the orders and putting them in the box and making sure they go while filming the videos and running the garden center and answering all the social media. I'm not. And so we have an amazing staff that certainly help a lot. A lot. All right, this is going back to the mulch question.
Mulch.
How thick should/can mulch be to prevent or minimize weeds in the flower shrub beds?
Yep, 3 inches minimum or more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just don't want to suffocate the plant as far as around the crown, but otherwise, you know, good 3 inches.
Yeah, 3 inches is kind of our standard, what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that you do that is, we talk about it all the time, like the importance of mulch. So that nice thick layer of mulch it does a lot of things. One, it does help prevent the weeds because, like Jerry says, the seeds can't get through down into the soil. And so the germination rate for your seeds is extremely low. So you have that. It insulates the roots. So on these extreme temperatures, right, you're really hot, it keeps them cool. In the wintertime, it helps keep them warm. Of course, it looks amazing. It looks really pretty. It retains moisture. So like right now, we've had a ton of rain, and now it's hot and I would say dry as far as like not raining. But if we were to dig down in this mulch, that soil is still gonna be nice and moist because that mulch retains that moisture. And so I know here in the South, a lot of times you're either kind of like team mulch or team pine needles. And when we first started, like when we built our house, we always did pine needles.
Yeah, it was just sort of the thing we grew up with. My mom liked the pine needles. She eventually converted over to some mulch, you know, but the mulch is by far better. There's no comparison whatsoever.
Yeah, from a plant growing standpoint, the mulch is so much better. I mean, I'm one to agree. Some fresh pine needles out are stunning, but for us, they don't last.
No.
And they don't really help your garden very much. What are your garden plans for the future? What are you dreaming of, brother?
For the future.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have this garden the original garden, when we first built the house, we said we were going to build this garden that was down on the creek. It's right off the side of our house on the creek, and it's been neglected for years. It does have some azaleas growing in it. Gorgeous azaleas growing in it. Old-time hydrangeas and those kind of things. Some bones are already there. Has some really huge poplar trees that I've transplanted over, you know, and they're big now. So we're working on adding those plants in. Because that's where we put in the propane tank for the generator. It's that bed.
Yeah, and then like the Southern Living hydrangeas down there off the backyard.
So we've started to add some things there, and that's some soil area for whatever reason it's bad. It's red clay, it's all stuck together. Goopy. So we're working that one.
That one, and then the woodland hill at the Signature Garden.
So we have some new plants that came in from Spring Meadow that we're going to be adding as pre-winter color choice shrubs. So we'll be adding some of those this fall, and that'll be that's a big one.
Those two are the big garden plans.
Yep.
Absolutely. What characteristics have helped you most to be successful in your endeavors? So I think when we were doing this with our signature folks, I kind of joked, but not joking, is like flexibility, patience, and grace, and dedication.
Yep.
Yeah. Because in order to do this, you've got to be flexible. I don't care what kind of small business owner you are. It doesn't matter if you're a plumber, an electrician, an accountant, a garden center grower. It does not matter. If you're a small business owner, you have got to be flexible and you have to be dedicated.
Yeah, disciplined. Yeah, discipline is the key, you know, because you can be motivated to go out and do something, but you're not always going to be motivated. So you need to be disciplined in the fact that you've got to do those tasks and these things every single day. Mm-hmm. We're disciplined to do the 5 videos every week, no matter what. And because
it would be nice to be in the air conditioning right now.
Yeah, that's when we need the indoor.
We need an indoor studio.
Yeah, that's right.
We do. And I will say too that we could not Creekside would not be Creekside without Jerry and I truly enjoying, like, we like to be together.
Yeah.
We enjoy working together. We've been married. We just celebrated yesterday 25 years of marriage. We dated 6 years before that. I mean, I have been with this man since I was 16 years old, and I truly, like, he is my best friend. We love working together. We love doing projects together. It doesn't mean it's always perfect. It's not always, unicorns and rainbows and sunshine. But, like, I would rather be with him and work with him than anybody else on the planet. And so that's why we're able to do what we do, because
that's the key to success.
We just enjoy being together and building things together and working on projects together.
Yep.
And always have. What is the one plant that you could not live without in your garden? That's like the most gosh awful question to ask a gardener, because I can't just choose one. So I think my standard answer is the one plant that I could not live without in my garden is the one that's currently in bloom. So, like, right now, it is petunia season. It is hydrangea season. They are stunning. I would hate to have a garden without hydrangeas. I would hate to have a garden without beautiful annuals. In the fall, I say I would hate to have a garden without camellias. So for me, it's like, what is pretty right in that moment, and what is, whether it's interest or flowers, any of those.
I think I told the group that it's the annuals for me, and because there's a place for them in every garden. I think sometimes they get a bad rap from certain folks that think they don't belong because they're annuals, but they are the only one that can produce the color throughout the entire season, and that it can be mixed in with your other perennials and shrubs, or if you're developing a garden like we've done over at the signature garden along the creek. It's just we've used the annuals to fill in gaps until the shrubs were small, the ones that we planted, until they get of size that start taking up that space.
Right, they are.
Yeah.
I mean, hello, bubblegum.
Yeah, bubblegum is doing pretty good in front of a lot of perennials and shrubs and firelight behind us, and so they all work well with one another.
It is, yeah. So that's impossible for me to answer that question. Oh. All right, next question. How did you get started with your nursery?
Yeah, so we dreamed up, we wanted to start a business and do our own thing. I came home one day from work and said, let's just
start a nursery. Why
start
not?
A nursery, and we thought we were going to do trees in the ground, like a field-grown tree nursery.
Like a B&B kind of thing.
Whew, man, boy, did I get fortunate. I had the right guy that was delivering trees that day, and the trees were kind of weird looking, and I knew right then, I was like, I'm gotten really quick over my head. And he says, you can deny the shipment. I said, yeah, brother, we're going to deny it, send it back. So then we catapulted right into the farmer's market, because we had grown some produce the year before just for us and that kind of thing. And so we just stuck with that, and we just started growing all kinds of things. And that's kind of how it got started. And it has changed a lot over the years. I was just the other day going through pictures, and I would say probably in 2017 was a changing moment. Some things were really starting to change at the garden center and what we do here. And about 2 years later.
Yeah, because even then it wasn't even a garden center. It was a greenhouse and the barn.
The two greenhouses, they were all there, the two greenhouses and the barn.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, we didn't inherit, like, because people will say, did you inherit Creekside? Did one of our parents start Creekside? No, we started Creekside. And so first it was a greenhouse. It was a little hut greenhouse over there. Then we built the barn. Like, literally the two of us.
We like building stuff.
Built the barn, and then we went back. I think the barn was erected, but it wasn't quite finished yet. Then we put up another greenhouse. So it wasn't even like a garden center yet, because Jerry was still going to the Charlotte Farmers Market. And we were trying, because that's not sustainable. I mean, that is a massive amount of work to do, to prepare to just go to the farmers market, because you have to, every week, You know, you have to load up the trailer. You have to have all your supplies, the tables, everything with you. Load it up. You get to the farmer's market. You have to unload everything. You sell, you work, then you load the trailer back up, bring all your stuff back home that you didn't sell, and then you have to unload it. So you could easily touch like a plant, a product 4 times if it doesn't sell.
Yep, and
to do that every week is a, you know, and then travel, 45 minutes, an hour to Charlotte. It was absolutely physically exhausting, mentally exhausting. And so we were trying to get people to come here. And that's how we got started in social media, was trying to drive people to come here to shop the plants. And then it just kind of it started working, and then it was crazy. And then in early March of 2020, that was when Proven Winners we filmed our first video for Proven Winners, and they launched it. And then like 2 weeks later, you know, the entire world shut down because of the pandemic, and we've had our tails on fire ever since. Yep. So that's it in a nutshell. We do have a video where we go into like great detail about like the history of Creekside. I'll try to remember to link that, but you can go back and see. It's really fun to see all like the pictures and the kids when they were itty bitties, and that our kids literally grew up in the greenhouses. What is your most overrated and most underrated plant?
Oh my goodness.
So I think as far as like overrated plant, I think that can be very subjective because, of course, we're in North Carolina, a zone 8A. And so I have plants that I have found that really thrive in our, you know, in our climate. And so whether it is, you know, the petunias, or let's say it's the firelight hydrangeas. Well, maybe you are in South Texas, and you're like, Jenny, those firelights are terrible in my climate. Like, they just die. They're horrible. That is the worst. That is so overrated. Well, it's maybe overrated for you because it doesn't work in your garden, but in my garden it thrives. And we could say vice versa. You could have a plant that is like a rock star performer. I bring it to my garden and it just flops. So I think we have to remember when we're in social media, like whether we're viewing it or where we're, you know, if you're in my position and we're talking about a plant, is that all of our gardens are very different. My garden and my mama's garden, we only live a couple hundred yards apart from each other, and there are plants that thrive for me and do not thrive for her because we have different gardens. So there has to be grace when you're like looking at, you know, especially on social media, and you can't say, oh my gosh, that is the worst plant. I can't believe you're growing that. It's so invasive. Well, maybe it's invasive for you, but it's not invasive for me, vice versa. So I don't think there's an overrated plant. I think there maybe just be wrong plant placement.
Yeah, and sometimes like there are certain plants that just get more advertising attention, like the one behind me. You know, this bubble gum it's on every catalog and it's everywhere, but there's so many plants.
Right, and so like it goes.
It's not that it's overrated. It's
just well publicized. Well publicized. It has a great marketing team.
Yeah.
And then as far as the most underrated plant, I could go
underused.
Yes, underused plant, because people don't give it the credit that it deserves. So for us, it's always been here recently.
The Cleome,
the Senoritas, whether it's Rosalita or Blanca, it's a great rock star performer. I think the pollinators are buzzing our heads. I think begonias are very, you know, underrated, underused, whether it's the surefires, those are great plants, especially, you know, from Proven Winners, because that's what we have the most experience with. What is Jenny's favorite flower to grow? So those of you that know me, what is not necessarily my favorite flower to grow, but my favorite flower on the planet is the gardenia. I love gardenias. They are my absolute favorite. But it's not my favorite flower to grow, because gardenia plants themselves can be quite divas in the garden. You give them too much water, they turn yellow. You don't give them enough water, they turn yellow. They're in the wrong spot in the wintertime, and they can get a lot of burn from the cold. So they can be quite finicky. You've got to get them in just the right spot, planted at the right time so they thrive. But man, when they bloom, they are my absolute favorite flower. But I guess it's kind of like I said earlier, my favorite flower is the one that's in bloom. So, I mean, I can't choose one.
Right.
Do you have a favorite flower?
I don't really have a favorite flower
To grow.
to
What
grow.
okay, as a grower, what would like a crop? What would be a crop that you're like, I really like this is a great crop to grow?
Well, I enjoy growing all the annuals. I enjoy growing the petunias, the super petunias. That I always have. Always enjoyed growing the baskets. You know, even though we've seen a decline in hanging basket purchases, but you know, we enjoy doing those. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I don't. It's a difficult
It
question.
is. Which hydrangeas grow best in your zone? So for us, because again, kind of talking about my garden versus mama garden, we're the exact same zone, but we have very different gardens. For me, because we are basically, for the most part, a full sun garden, the panicles do really well. So those paniculatas do great because I love them because they're guaranteed to give you flowers every single year. They love the sun. You need to prune them once a year to keep them a nice tight and to encourage new growth. But as I'm getting more shade and planting at the right time, I'm able to do the macrophylla hydrangeas, the smooths, and the
Yeah, she's got
serratas.
some beautiful sky views down there at the back of the house. That
Yeah.
thing, whew,
Yeah.
is gorgeous.
So it's all about with the hydrangeas is the the plant placement. So knowing that, my panicles absolutely can do full all day hot sun, but like my macrophyllas, they can do a little bit of morning sun, but they've got to have shade. So it's learning that.
Yeah, morning sun is good up to maybe lunch, and then after that, in the summertime, it needs to be coming off of them.
Yep. And this is a great question, especially this time of year with what we're going through. How do you keep up with watering the plants in your garden that are not on drip? So one, for example, sometimes you just have to hand water, right? We're currently here on the new terrace garden, and Jerry's got to rework the irrigation because there was a malfunction, right? It broke, and so we've got to rework it. So all the garden boxes are currently not on drip. So what I've done is I've set up hoses to make it a lot easier. I'm not hauling hoses, so they're on reels. So all I have to do is just turn the spigot on, and then the hoses will reach, and I can just really soak these boxes. So setting yourself up for success by making those hoses easier at the chicken coop.
And a good way to do that is with the hose link.
That's what I was getting ready to say. So up at the chicken coop, there is no irrigation up there, so I'm having to hand water every day. I have my hose link. That's the 82-foot one. I can hit everything with that hose link.
Yep.
And then it retracts super easy. So there's that, and then there's also we have at the signature garden, that back corner, there is no irrigation there, and there is no hose that's going to reach over there. So what we did was amended the soil really well with the great organic matter. When we planted early in the season, so there was not the heat. They had plenty of time, those cool temperatures, to get those roots really well established. So we planted early on in the season, and then we put some nice, thick, heavy mulch in there to retain that moisture.
Yeah.
So
It's worked.
timing, yeah. And then finding plants, like putting plants in there that were not divas. Like we have sun patience. They're tough. Coleus, super tough. They can take the drought. The begonias, super easy. So we're not putting Cleome. I'm not going to put my petunias back there because they're going to need more consistent watering than what we're able to get.
Even though we have planted super petunia, in the berm, and it did not have irrigation on it. It was planting them early, so they really sent those roots out and down.
See our little hummingbird?
I saw them flying around.
The little hummingbirds. I don't know if they're mad because we're sitting beside the plants, but they're buzzing. What is your one advice for a single-handed gardener who doesn't have others? I think so. This is someone who doesn't have a big support system like we do, And I just said, take one project at a time. Like set realistic goals and set one project at a time. So don't get overwhelmed, because Jerry can tell you I'm probably the world's worst of I try to multitask, and I do a little of this and a little of that and a little of this, and it drives me crazy. Pick a project, pick a plan, and do that and finish it to completion. And then set yourself up also with the right tools, right? So get those, invest in your tools, whether it's the power planter or the Hori Hori, a good shovel, a good wheelbarrow. Don't, take your time and invest in some tools, because it will, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Yep.
If or when you two ever retire, what would be your first thing to do? Take up a hobby or place to go on an extended vacation? What are you going to do when you retire, honey?
Extended vacation sounds good.
We're going to travel the world. We're going to buy a yacht.
I just saw a thing. This is kind of going off on a tangent, but just the other day I saw a guy talking about, the 2-week vacation test for your business, and that you should, run off for 2 weeks. For your business. You set up all these systems before you leave, which is kind of like the things that that are going to break. And then you disconnect. You disconnect from your phone, from all of it, so they can't get a hold of you or whatever. And then you come back.
See if they're still alive.
Then you see what broke, and that's what that needs to be fixed.
I think we need to test that out.
Yes, we do.
We can go to Fiji. It'll take 2 weeks just to travel back and forth to Fiji.
It will take 2 weeks to get there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But no, we're just going to continue working. It won't be the same. We get the systems in place that where it can run itself. And that's what I see as. I think retirement's a odd word.
Yeah. We'll never stop working. Now, are we going to work at the level we do now? No, we won't. But we will always, it's just like my parents. Both of them are officially retired, but those people never stop moving. Like, they are always doing a project. So, and that, I think that's just kind of what, who they are. And that's just how we've been raised. And so we're not going to retire and then go in.
Unfortunately, this is how it worked, and it's fortunate too. It's just, it turns out this way sometimes. But when we were teaching, my thing I enjoyed doing when I got home from teaching and working was going into the yard and taking care of the yard and doing my projects, and all that stuff spilled out of that hobby because I enjoyed doing it, and that's where we are right now.
Yes. So. This year you installed the Vago raised planter boxes. How do you plan to amend the soil next year? So what we'll do is, because the boxes are filled with soil, we did one box where we tried the whole, whatever that
log
method is, where you put like the green debris, the logs, the sticks, blah, 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 blah. And we were like, okay, no. And so, we are a nursery, so we have access to a lot of bulk soil. So we filled them completely full of soil. But yes, when I pull all of these annuals out, even though I'm going to try to leave as much soil in there as possible, I'm still going to lose some, right? The level is going to go down. So it's just like what I did when I planted them, is that I get that really great potting soil. So for me, it was the Ultra Outdoor Planting Mix from Black Gold, or the raised bed mix. Both of those would be really well. You could even use, and then when I had my other boxes before we were using Black Gold, I would use like Proven Winners potting soil. I would put that in there, but also put in a ton of compost. So I will refill, top off the boxes pretty much every season that I pull plants out. I would imagine when I pull all these annuals out this fall, that I'm going to lose a lot of soil, because there's so many plants and their roots are going to be so extensive that I'm going to lose a lot, as opposed to the spring when it was the bulbs, I lost very little. Because
I would see probably going back with the Black Gold raised bed mix.
Yes, because it is fantastic.
That's really one of my favorite. There's lots of raised bed mixes out there, and it's my absolute favorite because they've taken the perlite out of it. You don't have all these white speckles in your stuff, and you can use it. You've seen it in Jenny. She uses even in annual beds in the ground. But it's real rich with some compost and turkey meal. I think it's back in it now. So it's got a lot of good stuff in it. So I think it even has worm castings maybe now too. So it's an excellent raised bed mix.
Yeah. And it holds the moisture really well, so you're not going to have to water as much. And because it's really organically rich, it's a great way to feed the plants without having to, using synthetic fertilizers in there.
It is, and then if you're doing raised beds, for vegetable gardening and you're wanting to be organic, you're using a certified organic soil.
Yeah, the black golds are both the ultra
Certified.
outdoor.
Certified. A lot of people put organic on a bag or organic on lots of different things, but it has to be OMRI certified to be truly organic according to the government.
Yep. So, well, those were the questions that we had. So we went
good.
Yes, we went through all those questions, which was perfect. So I know this is kind of a little bit different than our normal porch chat. We're doing a garden chat here. But we just thought it would be fun to kind of share those questions with you folks, because we don't record the signature experience. Like, 'cause some people will say, I hope you would record it and show it to the rest of us. And so while our answers are basically the exact same, there is some difference, because, you know, you can't replicate exactly what happened.
No.
And to have our folks there was a great success. But we ended up having, because somebody was asking in a video, like, how many people we had come. And I just know that for dinner, we had 71 people. And so we had 71 people here. That included all of the guests and our speakers. Some of our staff was here that night. And so it was a great event. And what we did is, when we were doing the rotations, we broke the groups up into 3 different groups, because you don't want a group of like 71 people traveling around. That's not the most effective way to do a demonstration or a tour. So we broke those up, because somebody was like, that does not look like 71 people. Well, it's because those were the smaller groups.
Somebody said that?
Yeah. Those were the smaller groups that we broke up. But we will have more pictures of the signature experience once we get them back from the photographer. So super excited about that. But yes, so we're just going to continue doing our thing here in summer, and water, and enjoy the fruits of our labor, because my gosh, I don't think our gardens have ever looked as good as they do this year.
Yep. It's a lot of spring, late spring rain.
All the rain certainly has paid off.
It's came at us really well this year. I mean, we haven't flooded or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
So again, for a while you're kind of like, okay, you need to stop.
Stop raining. That's enough. Oh, but anyway, my friends, if you have found this fun, informative, and inspirational, we would love it if you would like and subscribe to Gardening with Creekside. That way you don't miss those 5 videos that we do each and every week. Y'all have an amazing day. I think it is, it is 9 o'clock. So the sun is starting to pop up over the trees, which is a perfect time to stop. I do have some watering that I have to do, because I haven't done that yet today. And anyway, we're going to try to stay cool and have an amazing day. We will see you in the next video. Bye, friends.